Well, once again, good morning, everyone, and hoping you're having a good start to your day today, and good to be with you. And we'll wait till a few people come on. Good morning, Rosa and Annette, Mike from Wawa, Darlene, Grace, and Kim. Good morning to you. John, good morning to you. And Laura, Susan, great to have you on this morning. Jeanette, bonjour. And Mary Jean and Diane, good morning to you. Linda and Nick, great to have you on this morning. Beautiful day, I hope, for you. And Sue, good morning to you. And it's great to have you on. We're going to talk about blood pressure this morning, but not just that. We're actually going to talk about preventing Alzheimer's. So I want to go into that this morning. And Jeanette and Kathy, good morning to you. Kristen, nice to have you on. Lise, Mona, and I know I missed so many people. Good morning, Yolanda and Donna. Okay, so we're going to talk about preventing Alzheimer's, and I'm going to break it down into about 4 different things. Hopefully, and Nellie and Jerry and Jeanette and Andrea from Nouveau-Brunswick and Micheline, how are you? You guys are great. Marin, how are you? And Roxanne, how are you this morning? Pauline, Diane, there's so many coming on. Okay, and Henry, Hari, good to have you on with us this morning. Okay, Karina and Dora and Diane, great crowd. Okay, we're going to talk about preventing Alzheimer's. Now, I don't know if you got our email this morning. Hopefully you're on our email list. Because we put an email out this morning about blood pressure, and this will be part of making sure that you prevent Alzheimer's. Because, and Tony Jr. mentioned this morning in the email, that what we do in our 40s, our 50s, our 60s even, is going to have a major impact on our future and our future health. So it's really, really important. This is why I'm so big into taking control of your health. Do everything you can to personally take care of yourself, because these things have huge implications, okay? Now, I've mentioned this in the past, but it doesn't take long for your body to turn around. It doesn't. I mentioned this in the past. You can empty your liver. They've shown you can empty your liver in about a week. And take out all the stored fat in the liver. Doesn't take long. So we want you to implement as much as you can changes. Okay, so there's the reason I'm bringing up Alzheimer's this morning is because whenever I see a study, I either flag it as being something I really want to comment on and study, or I just pass it by, because I get several studies a day, and I mean that, a day. Rarely ever a day goes by that a new study doesn't come to me. I sort of have a service that sends me any new study. Some of them they're not pertinent, at least not to me, and I think our audience here. But many of them are. And I flagged this one because it was talking about, this is a new a study on Alzheimer's, and they said a low-grade infection could be a factor. So this was the headline: a low-grade infection could be a factor in Alzheimer's. I don't disagree with that. A low-grade infection could be a factor in Alzheimer's. So they're talking about bacterial infection having an effect on the brain later on. Now, let's break this down for a second, because I'm going to talk about this morning, at least 4 things. We'll talk about 4 things that are factors in Alzheimer's. What we know today about Alzheimer's. We know much more today than we used to. So there's 4 things I want to talk to you about, because these are things that we know now are factors. So this is sort of a new one, but I'm going to break it down for you to show you that it's something that I've been talking about for a long time. So it really isn't new, but the way they describe it, it could be construed as being new, but it really isn't, okay? So let's start with this infection, because what they're saying is a low-grade infection leads to inflammation, and inflammation can affect the brain and cause what they call amyloid plaque, okay? So this is something that all medicine has really been working hard on, and they've been, it's been a colossal failure, and that is drugs for Alzheimer's. Once somebody has dementia or Alzheimer's, the medication thus far has really been a colossal failure. And what they're trying to do is develop meds for this, what they call amyloid plaque that occurs in the brain. It seems to be a factor in Alzheimer's, but it's never the cause. Amyloid plaque is not the cause. Amyloid plaque would be an effect of perhaps this infection that they're talking about. But let me tell you this. This has been my experience. And I've said this for so long, and people weren't listening. I was trying to get their attention about what happens in the brain. Years ago, even to a lot of my colleagues, I said, nah, you're missing the point. Because doctors generally like to look at 2 things when it comes to infection. 1, bacteria, and the other, made famous today, virus, right? And doctors they're focused in on bacteria and viruses. And so even this study was saying, well, it must be a bacterial infection, a low-grade infection that the body sort of overreacts to, and it affects the brain. Eventually, this bacteria can cause plaque, amyloid plaque in the brain. And I say, no, it's not that at all. It is fungus. It's a yeast infection in the brain. Now, you've heard me say this many a time, because I talked about leaky gut, leaky brain. So they were talking about maybe even using antibiotics to, just as a prevention for Alzheimer's. And in my opinion, that'll make it worse. Why? Because an antibiotic will just make yeast grow. You see, again, it's part of this invisible war. So point number 1 is leaky gut, leaky brain. And you know how I'm so convinced that this is true? So convinced that this is true. Because in Parkinson's and MS, here's what they know. Here's what we didn't know 30 or 40 years ago, but here's what they know about Parkinson's today. When they do an autopsy on people who get Parkinson's, you know what they find? Candida, yeast, fungus. That's what it is. Fungus. It's at the base of even Parkinson's. It's leaky gut. And listen, this is really important you understand that, because the fourth thing that I was going to talk to you about today, but I might as well put it into the first one. So we'll hit two birds with one stone. Is when you have a yeast infection. Now, ladies, you know all about that. Men don't know much about yeast. It doesn't mean they can't get it. It's just that they don't know anything about it. Why is that? Because men don't get yeast infections. You know, women know what a yeast infection is. But let me share something with you, ladies. Whenever you have a recurring, listen to what I'm going to say. Whenever you have a recurring urinary tract infection, it is not bacterial. It is yeast. It's fungus. It's leaky gut, leaky bladder. Leaky gut, leaky bladder. And you know, a lot of women have experienced this. They've taken an antibiotic for maybe even a urinary tract infection. And then they get a yeast infection. Happens often. And, you know, it's no fun. And then they get an antifungal cream or whatever to treat the yeast infection in their private parts. But when a urinary tract infection reoccurs, it's always a fungal infection. And this is why I tell women, if you get a bladder infection and it's burning upon urination, not, you know, because a lot of women contact me and say, Doc, I got a bladder infection. How do you know that? Well, my doctor called me because they did a urinary test. I said, well, how much pain are you in? Well, I'm not in pain. Well, I said, then you have a yeast infection. You don't have a bacterial infection. And if you do have pain upon urination and it's pretty uncomfortable, then take an antibiotic for a couple of days. But don't take it for a week, even though it says on the prescription for 7 days. No, take it till the pain's gone away. Stop. Double up your probiotics. Okay. Now I'm getting sidetracked, but the point I wanted to make is they've proven in Parkinson's and MS. MS is when they get plaque on the brain. There's usually 4 areas of the brain that get plaque. You know what they know now? It's fungus. It's a yeast. So the problem with antibiotics, and listen, please don't misunderstand or misquote me. I've been saying this so long, it comes out of my mouth without even thinking about it. Antibiotics are the greatest discovery of the 20th century. Saved millions of people's lives. The problem is, it's a double-edged sword. It's now the curse of the 21st century, and even in Alzheimer's. Because when you take an antibiotic, you kill all your friendly bacteria. When you kill all your friendly bacteria, you create a tsunami of yeast. And that yeast can travel in the bloodstream. That's why we call it leaky gut. It can travel two ways. One, via the vagus nerve, not Las Vegas, the vagus nerve, your 10th cranial nerve. Your 10th cranial nerve connects your brain to your stomach or to your gut. The 10th cranial nerve. And it can travel via the bloodstream. And it can cross the blood-brain barrier. Yeast can cross the blood-brain. We'll talk about this in a second. But all I'm saying to you is, ladies and gentlemen, when you take an antibiotic, if you've taken antibiotics in the past, you need to replace that bacteria. It's an invisible war that goes on inside that gut. And when there's not enough friendly bacteria, you get an overgrowth of candida, and you know what happens? It travels. It can travel to your lungs. It can travel, ladies, to your bladder. It can travel to your skin. We talked about that yesterday. It can travel to your joints. It can travel to your kidneys. It can travel to your brain. And I didn't say this. This study said it, although they didn't say, they said infection. And they were assuming it's bacterial, but it's not bacterial. It's yeast. It can travel into your brain. This is why leaky gut is at the root of Alzheimer's. It's at the root of autism. 100%. It's at the root of almost everything you can think of in your brain. Yeast, Candida albicans. You must get rid of it. And you know what it lives on? Sugar. Now, what damages the blood-brain barrier? You see, we talked about the gut and the skin yesterday. And what protects your skin is your gut, the little lining we talked about. But do you know that your brain has that little lining too? It's called your blood-brain barrier. Isn't God wonderful? He gave you a barrier to protect your brain. You don't want stuff to go into your brain that doesn't belong there. How does your brain allow yeast to get in there? What happens? Leaky gut, leaky brain. You don't have enough friendly bacteria. Your friendly bacteria make up your blood-brain barrier, just like your gut. It crosses. Yeast isn't meant to get into your brain, but it gets in there. And the greatest discovery of the 20th century has become the curse, because we have people walking around, most people, they don't even realize it because there's no symptoms. They have a yeast infection that creates inflammation. And you know, here's another thing that yeast does. Yeast carries, fungus carries heavy metals in your body. Mercury, lead, cadmium. Another finding, this is 40 years old, that they would find in Parkinson's was heavy metals. Often very, very high levels in the brain of mercury. But mercury doesn't travel to the brain. It can't get through the blood-brain barrier. Your body is fearfully and wonderfully made. It won't allow mercury to come in unless you don't have the friendly bacteria to keep it out of the brain. But you know how it travels? It hitches its wagon. It hitches its wagon to yeast. And it travels inside the brain, and it will create amyloid plaque. It's a big, big factor in Alzheimer's, which, by the way, is the number 3 killer in North America today. Every day, I think it's somewhere around 200 people a day in the United States, Canada. In the United Kingdom, it's the number 1 killer today. It's number 1 on the hit parade. It's surpassed heart disease and cancer in the United Kingdom. Alzheimer's. And I hate to be negative, but we're looking for love in all the wrong places. They don't talk so much about preventing Alzheimer's. You know, the pharmaceutical companies are looking to treat Alzheimer's. I don't blame them. They're pharmaceutical companies. That's what they do. You know, some people get upset at them. I'm not upset at the pharmaceutical companies. That's what they do. But they don't talk about preventing Alzheimer's. There's no pill to prevent Alzheimer's. Do you think? They tried. So what they want to do now is treat it. Once you have it, they want to give you medication to see if it can help a little bit. These have been colossal failures, guys, because they're looking in the wrong place. They're looking in the wrong place. One of the main things you can do is take care of yeast. One, don't feed it. Don't feed the bears. Don't give yeast sugar. That's what it lives on. Yeast lives on sugar. Is there ever going to be a day that I don't mention sugar? Probably not. So, if you do nothing else, don't feed it. Now, of course, what kills candida? Probiotics. We have a candida formula that I use, very effective. But don't feed it and then kill it. Because at the end of the day, you want to replace your bacteria. You want to replace the good guys. And you need trillions and trillions of bacteria. 1 5-day of antibiotic, 5 days. You've killed all your friendly bacteria in your body. All of them are gone. In 5 days. Now, there's other things. There's other things other than antibiotics. There are people that take pain medication. Advil, Tylenol, Motrin. That kills your friendly bacteria. Steroids, prednisone. That kills your friendly bacteria. Yeah. Fluoride in the water. That's why I don't like tap water. Kills your friendly bacteria. Hand sanitizers. Chemicals. They kill your friendly bacteria. You put them on your skin, they get into your bloodstream. Now you're developing a yeast infection. So, that yeast, left unchecked, is going to travel and cross your blood-brain barrier. The same way it got into your bloodstream will now get into your brain. And it often carries with it lead, mercury, cadmium, heavy metals. And they get into the brain. And they're very destructive. A lot of people don't even talk about heavy metals because they never get tested for them. They don't realize that they have heavy metals in their body. A lot of, most people do. Kids are canaries in the coal mine. They often have heavy metals in their body. I mentioned this to you maybe a few weeks ago when we were talking about the antichrist of sugars, which is high fructose corn syrup. And don't fool yourself, folks. Don't fool yourself. Okay, a lot of people, oh, doc, just a little bit of sugar. Nah, not much. No. It's in everything. It's in cereal. It's in your ketchup. It's in when you see sugar added, believe me, the food industry are using high fructose corn syrup. I already talked to you about this. Why? Because it is addictive and they know it. It takes the same center, the same route in your brain to your feel-good center deep inside your brain. The feel-good center in there, and it takes the same route that cocaine does. Proven fact. High fructose corn syrup is a deadly sugar. It was created in a lab by man. It doesn't come from God. It's man-made sugar. And that's really important to understand that. And it feeds yeast like nobody's business. And remember, I've always said this, it don't pass go in your gut, then it goes over to your liver in a hurry. It makes your liver store fat so fast it makes your head spin. But on its way there, it feeds yeast in the gut. And yeast explodes with that sugar. Candida explodes with high fructose corn syrup. And then I talked to you, this is maybe a month ago, I can't remember now. I talked to you about what it does to the barrier in your gut. It actually, it disrupts the bacteria that make up that little epithelial cells and the little lining of your gut and your blood. It does the same thing in your brain. High fructose corn syrup. It damages the blood-brain barrier. So this morning we're only hitting really 2 points out of 4. You need to get rid of yeast in your body, guys. You have a little bit of yeast in your gut, so what? That don't matter. When your good bacteria and your bad bacteria, you don't want to get rid of all your bacteria, guys. Your good bacteria will take, they're a powerful army. They will watch everything and they don't let anything get out of control if they're there. Your diet. You want to prevent Alzheimer's? Why are they calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes? That's what they called it. They named Alzheimer's about 15 years ago type 3 diabetes. They saw the connection with sugar. But I want to show you a hidden connection this morning. Yeast, fungus, candida, all the same. It's all the same. And food, don't feed it. It's a monster that wants to be fed. Don't feed it. And get aggressive to kill it. Get aggressive to kill it. And you know me, I've been talking about probiotics for so long, it makes your head spin. And the other thing I've been talking about is the side effects of antibiotics. Am I against them? Absolutely not. I'm not against them, but you need to understand, anytime that I ever talk to a physician over the years, and I've had many, many, many as my patients over the years, I've said to them, listen, you're missing out on something in medicine. You're giving out antibiotics, maybe too much, but I said, I'm not even talking about that. I said, you have no idea what you're doing on the inside of the body with antibiotics. Now, like I said, wonderful, save your life. And if you go back 40 years, I used to say, don't take antibiotics for I've known patients that have been on antibiotics for a year, 7 days a week. Oh, I said, that's not. Be very careful. And it always used to say this, finish the prescription. But it wasn't the right thing to say. No. And look, I can't tell you as an individual what to do. I can't tell you that. But I'm just telling you what I say to patients over the years. Look, take the antibiotic till the pain goes away, then stop. Stop. And start replacing your friendly. As a matter of fact, I'm probably one of the first guys that said this. Go back again 30 years, and I used to say, no, you need to take probiotics and take them from the first day. Oh, doc, yeah, but if I take an antibiotic with a probiotic, it'll kill the friendly bacteria. Yeah, it'll kill some of them, but it's not going to kill all of them. You need to start replacing that bacteria right away. So as you take an antibiotic, maybe wait an hour or two, but then take a boatload of probiotics and double up or triple up while you're taking that antibiotic. This way here, you will not start what we call leaky gut. The biggest cause of leaky gut is something that saved millions of people's lives. It's antibiotics. They're showing now that even with Alzheimer's, it's not just our diet, it's antibiotics, the greatest discovery in medicine, ever in medicine, is that. Okay, so this is to be continued. I didn't even get to, I wanted to talk about high blood pressure and insulin. You know I was going to talk about insulin and the blood-brain barrier. We'll talk about that. We'll reinforce that in you, okay? But tomorrow is question and answer. So Fridays, I like to keep that for a question and answers. And then, but we'll be back with Alzheimer's. But isn't that an important teaching, guys? I think you get it, how important it is of your gut and your brain connection. So you know what? Take care of that gut and get rid of yeast. And don't feed the monster. Don't feed the bears. Okay. So if you have any questions for tomorrow, happy to answer them. And if you didn't get that email, sign up your email today with themartinclinic.com. Okay, so just go on our website. martinclinic.com, and set up so that you get the emails. They're so good. Some very good teaching there. Okay? So talk to you soon. God bless you.